Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon if you're watching this later on. My name is Stephen Hilborn, and this is the week 1 material for facility design. I want to thank you in advance for last week. I had COVID. It was actually more severe than I thought it would be. I'm just getting my voice back now. So my voice cuts out a little bit from here to there. You'll understand why. There's been a couple changes because of the first week not being an actual week of lessons. So what I'll do is I'll record the material here. This will always be posted under weekly learning for you. It is the expectation that you watch these videos in advance to our class, or if you don't get quite to it in class, ensure you do it before the midterm, and also that you attend class as much as possible. I do have it set up so if you are busy some of those weeks, it's okay, and I will show you in the syllabus. There are weeks that are very important to attend, and then there are weeks that are nice for you to attend. So this is welcome to facility design. Let me just go to the next slide. So we're going to look at the course outline in the syllabus here a little bit today, and then just do some very basic intro to what is facility design, as well as some of the trends that affect facility design in the food and beverage industry. Now, we look at the food and beverage industry as a whole, where this will apply more so to you in those retirement home, long-term care, but really that your certificate in food and nutrition management do not limit you to work in those fields. You may be working for food developers, grocery, or you could even be working for resorts and restaurant brands and other food establishments. So I really like to approach it from a very open aspect that way. So first, let's go to the syllabus. So I'm just going to pull that up here real quick. Just give me a moment. Okay. So here we're looking at the syllabus. As I said, my name is Stephen Hilborn. It's my pleasure. I'll be your new program coordinator. So if you have any questions whatsoever, my email is right here. I think my email is scattered around a bunch of different things through Blackboard. As well, this is my virtual office. When we have our weekly classes, I'll always repost this in the announcements before class. So it's really easy for you. Just go to Blackboard, go to the announcements, and you'll see what to click and how to get there. So in this particular class, we look at different food service facilities and basically how we explore the design and the requirements for some of the design. Now, menu design and workflow patterns are discussed. We look at different design processes. We look at equipment. We actually use all this knowledge to redesign an actual food and beverage operation that's currently in operation right now, but it needs a retweak, and that's where you're going to come in. And then we look at some of the technology issues. As far as a book is required or concerned, you don't need a text. Most of the material that we talk about is just through our notes, although you should probably already have this text. So this is the food service management. I think it's like an off or like a greeny blue aqua color. Some of you probably already have this text, and if you do, that's fantastic. We do pull from a lot of material in there. I won't go through the learning outcomes. I'm going to do a little bit of this in class as well. And you'll understand as we go through. Now, basically the makeup of this course is we have 4 in-class assignments that are all worth 10%. So that's 40% total. Those specific classes are really important that you come to. There are 2 15% tests, so 30% total for your tests. It's pretty light as far as testing is usually concerned. But the thing is, this particular class, maybe it's not a capstone course for your program, but I consider it one of those courses that we do more than we lecture. So while there are lectures and we talk a lot about the design and how it affects, the customer or the resident experience, we do a lot of actual designing, and that's what I want you to do. So you'll have 40% of in-class design style assignments, as well as another 30% where we actually redesign a space. So as you can see, we have all pre-recorded lectures for every week. Now this syllabus here has been a little adapted. Usually I had in the second week, we're going to do our first in-class assignment, as that's coming up just here shortly. It's going to be for the following week. So on week 3, we'll have our first in-class assignment due. Now, so basically what's going to happen is next week, I'll go through the last 2 weeks, just kind of talk about all of the stuff that you may have missed, how the course is going to work, and go and revisit some of the PowerPoints and the lectures. Now, like I said, I'm pre-recording all the lectures. I want you to watch them in advance. That way that leaves more time for us when we're in class to do. But I will go over some of the more complex parts as needed. So you'll see here, it follows a very similar pattern. We'll have a couple weeks of material, and then we'll have an in-class assignment, another week of material or 2, and then another in-class assignment. And then you'll see we have our first midterm on week 6, which is worth 15%. I also have here, I might have to do some rearranging because I know our classes are on Tuesday from 1 to 4. We do have a career fair that I really want you to go to. So actually, let me just do that right now. Where do I want to put this? This in-class assignment 4, I'm going to move. So we're going to move it right down to week 10. I'll upload this syllabus updated to Blackboard, and I'll show you where that is. So this right here is going to be the career fair. So there's going to be no live class, but what it is going to be is that we are going to be going to a career fair, which there are many places for you to work, and this is a great networking event and just good experience for you to get out there and get interviewed. So no class. Excuse me. And then you'll see we have, sorry, just backing up a little bit. Week 7, we'll do another in-class assignment. Then we have reading week. Week 8, we go back into some more material. Week 10, we'll have our final in-class assignment and then our final exam. And then we'll start our major assignment. So we have, your final exam is done week 11. So you have 3 weeks at the end to complete your final assignment. I'll introduce it in advance, but we're not going to work on it too much until this actually time happens. And then we'll have lots of time to work on it together, as well as I'll throw in a sustainability bonus, which is really important as well. So that's the syllabus in a nutshell. Again, I really like to focus on things that we are doing, and as not much as you just listening to me lecture. I think you get a lot more out of the course that way. So when it comes to design experience, a lot of us have some design experience already, even if we do or do not know it. Much of this is just maybe some of the stuff at your own home or you're in your room that you rent or whatever it might be. So this is selecting furnishings and looking at different storage options, just the layout of your individual sleeping area or living room, things like that. Do you have an open concept? Is it cozy? These are the things that we think about. Now, my design experience comes from industry where believe it or not, I taught this course from a theoretical standpoint, like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, and didn't have a ton of design experience. But as I taught this course and learned more, I also had a consulting company for restaurants, and then I got out into the industry. And so the picture you're seeing here is one of the places I designed, and I used the program that we are using right now. So as you can see, this is the layout of the Red Line restaurant here in Barrie, with all different seating options. And if you were able to zoom in, you'd see that there's dimensions on everything. And you can see the walking areas and the vestibule and the retail store. And then this kitchen right here. This is just an increased zoomed in view of that kitchen area. So it just gives you an idea of exactly how that was working. And this is kind of the expectation of you, that you can turn something that in your mind looks like this, excuse me, into the bird's eye view of a design like that. And we'll do it from a home look. We'll do it from long-term care or cafeteria style look. We'll do it from a restaurant, like an actual commercial services restaurant look. We look at all different kinds. So ideally, when you think about the impact of facility design, really it's all about increasing efficiency. And when you increase efficiency, typically what you do is you increase revenue and the income that your company makes. So we want to improve production by removing steps, improve traffic flow so there's no congestion or accidents or cross-contamination, improve the quality of food, And then also you want to ensure that ensure that employees have a comfort and safety, as well as enhancing the customer appeal. And that's a very important part, because often what happens is that we can improve all of these top three things, usually at the expense of the bottom two. So ideally what we want to do is that we want to improve all the traffic flows and the speed and the efficiency of our company, of our organization, without sacrificing our happiness of our employees or our customers. So facility design has been documented that the design and layout of a facility is a key factor in the success of a business. And this is 100% guaranteed. And when we think about design, we got to think about a couple different ways. So we think about the physical. So these are the material elements. So anything that takes up space and must fit into your available space. So if you're a bedroom, you're thinking about your beds and your dressers and your desks and whatever else, your lamps and whatever else you might have in there. Design refers to the function of the room. So when we think about it, we think about for sure the site selection. What is the menu? Because the menu dictates how the service is going to happen, as well as what kind of equipment you need in the kitchen. So we look at decor, we look at layout, and then the layout, of course, refers to the process of actually placing all of those physical elements in a way to ensure the efficiency. Again, there's just a couple like layouts here to take a look at. You see how people, and I often refer to housing plans, because with housing plans, everybody has experience with them. We've all lived in homes. We get how it works. We always know that if there's 4 people in the kitchen, it's way too much. And maybe the front door area where we walk in is sometimes crowded and there's shoes and boots everywhere. These are common congestion sites. So these are the things that we know of and we can speak to easily. So there's been a lot of there's been a lot of trends affecting food service design, and one of which is the changes in patterns of eating out. Now, before I go into any of these, I'm approaching this course from a non-COVID frame or viewpoint, because everything is COVID and COVID this, COVID that. It's all you hear in the news, and it's just too much. One day we will be back to whatever regular operation, and that's the way that we should be trained. Yes, we need to approach COVID and understand that there are going to be changes and influences in our industry that will never go away. But for the most part, this is a blip in a long time frame of food and beverage service. So we have to understand that, yeah, we'll take a look at it, but I don't want to just talk about COVID-19, the pandemic, and how it's affected everything right now. I want to also talk about, the future and what that's going to look like. So as far as trends, a lot more meals have been eating out than ever before, and the food delivery service has taken over. This we already know. There's been very little change in the disposable income. So this is like the demographics of people here in Ontario and Canada. So the prices of food have gone up. The styles of food have had to change, and there's very little change in disposable income. So margins are very tight. We also have an overall greater concern for our physical health and well-being. So we like farm-to-table items. We like things with less preservatives and less pesticide use and hormone growth and more leafy greens. And these are all the things that are really trending. We will always, here in North America, meat will always be a staple. But I just read an article actually today saying red meat has had one of the lowest consumptions in the last decade. So my understanding is that with pandemic, with the prices going up, meat is where people are saying, okay, let's pull back from. Red meat is also the least sustainable product in the world. So it's very good that we're going more to our vegetarian, vegan health lifestyle. So most menus have had to pivot with this and also offer those things. So we're offering lighter, healthier fares. This can mean new equipment. This can mean new processes. This could be maybe more and different styles of storage. And there's generally a concern for freshness. So you'll also see a lot of these open kitchens and exhibition style cooking, which is good. So this is just some of the trends. I'm not going to go through this stuff. You guys can read the PowerPoints on your own. These are just some of the trends that we're seeing, how people are becoming more healthy. This is a huge one here. So this is a big trend affecting the concern for employees. So if I were to go back, I don't know, let's say 10 years ago. 10 years ago, employees were fairly easy to find. 15, 20 years ago, employees were fairly easy to find. People needed jobs. It wasn't necessarily they had the pick of the jobs, they needed them. Now, fast forward to today, we are in an instance where it is incredibly difficult to find employees. It's even more difficult to find good ones and also to keep them. So keeping them is very important as well. So what we can do from a facility design perspective is a lot of different things. So we want to be able to build a facility that's easy and attractive to work in. So this is branding. This is identity. These are the things that they're kind of intangible. But if you look at a coffee time restaurant versus a Starbucks says something about their employees, right? There's a level of quality, there's branding. People might wear that Starbucks brand proudly saying, I work there. Versus you work at a coffee time, it's kind of dingy, it's muted colors, it's grays and browns and just kind of ugly. It doesn't have that same appeal, right? So it's the same thing as working for like a Marriott kind of accommodation place versus working for, Joe's Bed and Breakfast. There's this different level. So the branding really has a big impact on it. And you don't need to be a major chain to have good branding. We also bring in some things like air-conditioned rooms, staff lounges, staff washrooms. So during those breaks and during those lunches, they're comfortable. They have a safe place to store their equipment. Now, this takes a part of the floor print or the floor plan. It takes up space, but it's well worth it if you keep your employees happy. Easy to clean equipment. So a lot of the people will be working in food service, and the worst part about the food service establishment is the mess and the grime and the dirt and the grudge and all that stuff that comes with it. So making sure that it's well lit and it's easy to clean not only saves time in the cleaning, but also just keeps your employees more happy. And then, of course, we have concern for the environment. Now, this is not a trend per se, but rather I would say that this is a way of life that we need to adapt. So and also just, by demographics alone, we have an increasing population. It's not going anywhere. We have more people today than we did yesterday, and that's going to continue on for a long time. So we're always going to have to use less space. We're always going to have a smaller carbon footprint. So how do we do it successfully? So one of which we talk about LEED. So LEED is a leadership in energy and environmental design. They give out awards to people or designations or certifications to people in companies that develop places according to this. So we'll look into that a little bit more. And they look at things such as sustainable sites. So not building in wetlands and having to take down forests to do so. They look at water efficiency, reusing the potable water, smart use of water, low flow options, energy. So what are different ways to lower our energy consumption, the materials and resources. So sustainable materials and resources, which the pandemic has been horrible for because we're using a lot of single use items. And then indoor environmental quality. So it's air quality, use of outdoor light. These are things that are just good for your soul. You need outdoor light, you need vitamin D, you need that kind of environment, as well as air quality. And now more than ever, we're understanding the importance of that. And then usually, so this is the LEED, this is the US symbol, but there's a Canadian symbol, it just says Canadian. Green Building Council, LEED certified. Tim Hortons, believe it or not, is a LEED certified design. And they usually what the idea is that you lower your monthly costs, you have better indoor air quality, your resale value goes up, greater durability, and then just the peace of mind that comes with being able to have one of these operations. Another trend is economic factors. Now, again, I guess it's not a trend per se, but like I said, with cost always going up, harder to find employees, less space, economic factors, we have to ensure we cannot be sustainable. We can't hire people as if we don't make money. So these are some of the ways that we look at the economics of it. So workflow, so reducing the times workers spend moving from one task to another. So this could be just literally where we locate items beside each other. So as an example, the dishwashing area in most food service operations has to be closely related from where the servers come in from the dining room into the back of the house and be very close related. So they're not holding all these dishes and carrying them for long ways. It breaks down the servers' bodies because they're carrying a lot of weight for a long time. It's very dangerous. Again, you can waste a lot of money by breaking those dishes if someone were to fall. And then also it just takes up a lot of their time. So like a very simple thing, like ensuring that the dishwashing area is located essentially when you walk into the back of the house from the dining room is very important. Now you don't want it too close, or you want some sort of sound barrier so you don't hear it and you don't see it. But it's got to be, that's one example of workflow. Same thing with traffic flow. We also want to create flexible workspaces, and those are usually our prep areas, but this could be party rooms or different dining seating layout, so we can change it up. So if we want 10 groups of 4, or we want one big group of 40, we're able to do so based on using different equipment and different layouts. And then of course, reduce energy where possible and maximize all of our resources as well as we can. Man, my voice. Another big one is trends in technology. I'll get there. So technology has a very, very big impact on our industry. Now, the problem is it is always, always changing. So staying up with technology is virtually impossible. Because once you buy the newest point of sale system, or once you buy the newest digital inventory system, there's an upgrade or an update or something new that comes out. So what it is, rather, it's not always staying up to date with technology, but rather choosing technology that has the biggest impact that you believe will last you the longest productively or successfully, such as creating online menus and nutritional information. Now, nutritional information, as long as you have 5, I believe it's 5 locations as a commercial, you must supply nutritional information of your menu. Calories, fat, and maybe sodium down the road. iPad menus, digital menus, these are all basically an expectation at this point. Different styles of inventory systems. Inventory is really important, especially with ordering. You're probably learning this, or will be learning this, in the advanced food service class, about how difficult it is to maintain an inventory of perishable goods without having lots of waste. Order a lot online ahead of time. Again, not new necessarily, but something that people come to expect. Different ways to pay for your food, accepting even maybe Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. Marketing, so social media is now the easiest, the cheapest, and the number one popular way for people to review and look at different food service operations. So ensuring you have your own social media campaign. So not just social media ads, but rather your own branding, your own campaign and strategy, your own language that you use. Are you friendly? Are you upscale? These are all the things that we need to ensure we have. And then just new equipment, which comes out, nonstop, immersion blenders, and, there's robot chefs that now create food for you. There's all kinds of stuff. Robot bartenders. Now, this is the kind of stuff I'm not going to lecture to, but you can definitely review it on your own as needed. I always find this really interesting. So this right here is dining in 2004. Now, I know this is a little outdated, a few years, but it's about the same. So in 2004, a customer walks in and are seated and are given a menu. 7% of them request for somewhere else to sit. Okay. Takes about 8 minutes for they close their menu and order. When they get their food, about 4% on average send their food back. After dinner, the check is usually presented in about 5 minutes. And the average meal took just over an hour. Where you fast forward to 2018, customer walks in, 40% request to be seated elsewhere. Now, anyone that works in food and beverage understands that there is a seating system, there is a rotation. Some areas might not be open. This doesn't necessarily work. On top of that, before opening their menus, phones are out, they take photos, they text. 16% of people ask the waiter something not to do with ordering. or show them something on their phone, the total average time is about 21 minutes to order. Rather, it's about 8 before. The food arrives. 58% of people spend 3 minutes taking photos of their own food. 31% take photos of other people's food. That takes under 4 minutes. And then 20% of people send their food back. So 1/5 of food is sent back because it doesn't look right, it's not warm, it doesn't taste good, whatever their reasoning is. 50% of people ask server to take a group photo, 20 minutes more than average for eating. The average time for a meal is now 115 minutes. It is 50 minutes. Now this is kind of like a little example. It's not every time this happens, but on average, 50 minutes more for a dining opportunity. Now, if you are a server, that means you have less opportunities to flip your table and make more money. If you're in operations or an owner, you'll see less people. If you're in long-term care and you have 2 lunch sittings and 2 dinner sittings, it's almost impossible. And residents need to eat when they need to eat, specifically those on medications, which the majority are on. So this has a big impact. So we have to ensure that in all of our food and beverage operations, that they get great service and good hot food, but within a time frame that works for us as well. And design has much to do with that. Regulatory considerations. So we are the most licensed industry out there because we serve alcohol. Even in the long-term care and retirement homes, they serve alcohol. So you have to abide by the planning department to ensure everything is built to code. Now, we'll look at some of the planning code. We're not going to be designers per se, but there are a couple things such as accessibility for disabled, those kind of things that we really should know about. So we'll talk about that. Liquor license permits. You need a tavern license. You need fire inspections, and specifically now the fire and emergency service inspection will also tell you what your capacity is. And in the world of where we're getting shut down to 50% capacity, that's an important number to know. There are building service inspections, and then there are enforcement services for your business license, such as police. When they come there, if they need to clear a place, they need to have all the emergency exits known and mapped and labeled. And there's just a lot of different moving parts that you wouldn't think you need. These are also just one more note on this. These are the things that we often do once when we're first opening a location, but we rarely keep up to date on. And that's where a lot of people have problems, where it's not when you first open up your place or you first renovate your place. It's 5 years down the road when there's been changes to these things, but you haven't stayed up to date on them. I'm losing my voice. And then there's special location considerations. So there's a few different things that we got to think about when we think about food and beverage design. And one of which is, where are we located? So if we're in an urban center, which we're going to call downtown, or commercial facilities, usually what happens is that there are tight timelines for lunch. Rent is often expensive because rent is based on square footage. So 1 foot by 1 foot, 10 feet by 10 feet. That's a square foot. So usually what happens is that a lot of restaurants in those urban areas have very narrow street frontage. So it might be 50 feet, 20 feet, whatever, but they are deep and they go higher as well. So they build vertically, and sometimes they build. So there's a lot of rectangle-based businesses. Suburban restaurants typically draw from a larger radius, although because they draw from this larger radius, they also require good transportation routes and ample parking. So probably Barrie, as an example, which doesn't have fantastic transportation routes, it requires a lot of parking. And then shopping centers are a good example of high traffic with ample parking. Therefore, their rent is much more expensive. So that's your commercial food and beverage. But then we also think, okay, there's lots of schools and universities, and they also have a lot of food considerations. And we're talking from as small as your small local elementary and high school that have a cafeteria, maybe a couple little small commercial-based shops, and to the larger schools and universities, specifically in the United States, that can have over 100,000 people. So they're often located on first floor buildings. They sometimes can double as study halls or event spaces. They often operate from a centralized kitchen system, which we'll talk about, which means there's one central kitchen, which may have 4 or 5 or 6 different outlets around them. Casinorama here in Aurelia is the same way. They have a central kitchen which feeds 6 banquet halls, the event center, and 3 different restaurants. So everything comes out from the central kitchen. It's a lot of money savings as well. There's residency halls that often provide some sort of food service. Some people bring in franchises. So at Georgian, they have Tim Hortons and Pizza, Subway, things like that. And the trend is more inexpensive food at many different periods of time. So usually at like a school and university, you don't have a lot of time in between classes and you're busy. So grabbing that sandwich, that Subway, that piece of pizza, whatever it might be, throughout many different periods of time is ideal. And then we also got to think about hospital and healthcare centers. So this is probably more of the wheelhouse that many of us will be falling into. But this is unique because we also have to cater to staff. We have employees, we have visitors, we have guests, and we have patients. Many of which the patients require food in their room. So not only do you need to have a cafeteria or a dining operation, a dining room, but you also need that food service area to easily be able to replicate those meals, put it on some sort of transportation dolly device, and then send to the rooms as needed. And usually this is in the same timing that everyone else is trying to eat. So that breakfast, lunch, and dinner periods are very busy because you're serving many meals in many different fashions. You must be determined if you're using a centralized kitchen before any design takes place. So again, centralized kitchen is probably located here close to this cafeteria, somewhere in here. Centralized feeds typically one large dining area, while vending and private dining rooms are supplemental. And then you also have to think about the travel spaces and elevators and hallway space to accommodate food trolleys that also might be going beside people in gurneys or people in wheelchairs. So when you think about the hallway capacity, you might need 6 feet. So you each have 3 feet for a trolley, as well as someone in a wheelchair, and that they're not, like grinding against each other as they go. And we'll look into that a lot more. And then, of course, correctional facilities. So it's a much different thing as well. This is very challenging in terms of design, as food service workers are often typically the inmates as well. So safety is a number one concern. Also, you don't want too many people in one area at one time, specifically in a prison, because it can get out of control because it's a very social environment. So safety is number one concern. Managers, and there's often raised up platforms that are viewing over these areas. They like to have smaller dining areas with 100, 125 seating, and then often they want to do different seatings as well, so different time seatings. So someone comes in for lunch at 11, 12, and 1 o'clock. So you might have 375 inmates, but 125 at a time are eating during 3 different periods. All equipment under lock and key, no drawers, secure storage areas. So the style of equipment would be much different. And you want limited face-to-face interaction between serving inmate and the inmate eating. So often what they do is that they might have that buffet style, but from the shoulders up, they'll block out. So all you can see is someone come up, bring lift a tray out, and you're placing your food on there, but you're not getting that face-to-face interaction. So there's a lot of different ways that we got to look at design, and they change based on the situation that we find ourselves. Again, this is the very first PowerPoint in week 1 lesson. When I see you now on Tuesday, we're going to go through week 2 lesson. I will try to record that tomorrow in advance. It's Sunday right now. I'll try to record that in advance and get that to you. But we'll also review it in class, as well as go over the syllabus. And I'll show you a little bit more of the Blackboard and how it all works. Okay, so in the meantime, I will update that syllabus and post it for you. And I hope you are all having a great weekend. And I will see you on Tuesday at 1 p.m.